Well, hi everyone. I'm Akosh, the CEO of Airtime, and this is Product Fit, our short video podcast series where I talk to exceptional founders and product leaders. In this episode, I'm talking to Sam Brearey, the founder of Accessercise. He has an amazing company that he's building, and we're going to go through his experiences of building this company. He also, just to share some sneak peek into discussion I had. He used to be a professional athlete, and I'm really curious about how his experience as a professional athlete influences what kind of founder he became and what sort of advantages he sees and taps into from that past experience. Without further ado, let me pass on the mic to Sam, and why don't we start with a short introduction and tell me about yourself and the company that you're building.
Yeah, hey guys, thanks for having me. I appreciate it. So, as Akash said, my name's Sam. I'm CEO and co-founder of Accessercise. My background is in elite sport. I was a professional athlete for on and off for around 10 years, and then joined the legacy programming for the London 2012 Olympics and Paralympics. Then set up my own athlete management company. Stopped that in 2020 to found Accessercise with my co-founders. And Accessercise is the world's first fitness app specifically designed for the disabled community. So from start to finish, we support and represent disability.
Where did the idea come from? I'm really interested and intrigued about that. How did you come up with the idea?
So it was a bit of a joint effort between me and my co-founder, Ali. So Ali Jawad is a Paralympic athlete for Britain. He's been to 5 Paralympic Games, won Paralympic silver in Rio, broken the world record 2 or 3 times. Like an amazing guy, born with no legs in Lebanon. And he was my first ever client when I became a sports agent. I managed his career for probably 8 years or so, maybe even 10 years. And we're getting ready for the Tokyo 2021 Paralympic Games at this point because it had been delayed. And he wanted to retire afterwards. We're kind of looking at what to do next. You know, he's doing a PhD. He wants to go into anti-doping maybe, but his big driving factor was helping the disabled community be more active and live healthier lives. So we were looking at how we could encourage and support that, be it through setting up a foundation, maybe writing some sort of posts and articles as a thought leader, maybe linking into company organizations a bit more, that kind of stuff. And it kind of struck us that the biggest issue they have is that that community don't have the resource and the knowledge that we maybe have as able-bodied community. So we really wanted to focus on that, and we quickly did a bit of research and found that there are 75,000 fitness apps on the App Store, but not a single one of them is specifically designed for the disabled community to be active. That's kind of where we started hashing out this idea of, if we're going to do it, we should do it properly. And if we're going to do it properly, that means it's technology driven. If it's technology driven, it's got to be on a phone. And if it's got to be on a phone, it's got to be an app. And that very quickly, we were like, well, let's make an app. Let's do a fitness app for the disabled community. And we had no idea at that point what it was going to look like and what it was going to do, but that was kind of our brainchild.
It's one of the measures. This is a personal one that I have for great ideas. Is that when I hear them, they sound so like natural, and I always ask myself, like, how come nobody thought about that before? And you mentioning that there are like so many fitness apps out there, and there's also like a lot of disabled people around the globe, and it's just amazing to be also a first mover, but it's also a bit. Is it a curse a little bit that you can't? I know I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you're not a first mover, you can look at what competitors do, and you can like see some of the mistakes that they made and learn from it. And there are some like advantage of the second mover, whereas a first mover, you have to come up with everything from scratch. How's that? How was this experience of your research and not having competitors yet out there?
Yes, it's a super interesting one. So I guess one of my biggest learnings on this whole entrepreneur journey is probably in this sector. So I was convinced that being the first mover, the first people to think about something is brilliant. Like the first person to think about and invent the internet is a billionaire. Like the first person to be able to deliver packages to our door within 24 hours is a billionaire. Yeah, so like in my mind, that's kind of what I thought was going to happen. But like you say, there's a lot of positives and negatives to it. I think it's become more of a balance over the last decade than it used to be. I think it used to be sort of 10 years ago, if you were first into a market, that was an unbelievably positive, good thing. Now I think with investors being a bit more risk adverse normally in the world, especially at the moment, what's going on, it's sometimes tricky for them to get to where you need them to get to. And that's kind of one of our hardest points in this investment round, is to get investors to understand where we're at. So the advantages are, of course, that there are no competition. There's no one out there to rival you. You get 100% of the market share on day one. You are the leading expert in that market at that current time. The downside is that people often ask that question that you asked a second ago, why has no one done it before? That's often a question you get. And the mindset tends to be at the moment, for whatever reason, that if no one's done it before, that's for a reason, and because there's no market there and X, Y, Z. And it's kind of, that's not true. Like we never dreamt of having emails on our phone, and now we can't live without emails on our phone. It's not as though the market wasn't there. It's just that people had to explore it and develop it. So that's kind of where we're at now. And it's a fascinating journey because we get to write the market, as it were. We get to flesh it out and explore that area. At the same time, there's a few negativities around, people questioning it. But then equally, it makes it easy for people to acquire us at the end of this. It's much easier for people to enter a market by buying us out than it is to do it all themselves, because we've got all the knowledge and the learning. So yeah, it's been an experience. It's been hard to benchmark. There's not, the disability world specifically has less data than other markets. In terms of minority groups, the disabled community are the largest minority group on the planet, but the data for that is minimal. It's hard to know what our market size is going to be because there's nothing. There's no disability fitness app, so we can't say it's this amount of people or money. So we have to, but we have to use a few assumptions in that. So we know the market size of the able-bodied fitness world. We know it's roughly 15% of the global population are disabled. Therefore, 15% of the global fitness app world kind of makes sense, so I think as long as you
so you can go for like a top-down approach.
For sure, yeah. And in the startup world, I think as long as you can justify assumption, you're fine.
Let's spend a couple of minutes on talking what your app actually does, so our listeners can also imagine. Well, if I'm a disabled person and I downloaded your app, what can I do with it?
Whatever you want. No. So we position ourselves as a fitness app and a wellness solution. Yep. So the objective of Accessercise is to get more people that are living with a disability or impairment more active and more healthy. So we start by asking 3 very basic questions to identify what your disability or impairment is, what your current level of exercise is, and if you need assistance to help you exercise. And then based on that, you get directed to the exercise library, and that is where we offer bespoke content specific to your impairment. So if you have one leg, for an example, you will only see videos which are scientifically valid to be beneficial and safe for you to do. They will be at the level of exercise that you require. They will be demonstrated by somebody that has the same impairment as you. And they're kind of short videos that are all subtitled, they're all voiceover, they're as accessible as they possibly can be. From there, you can put exercises into a workout and you can create your own workout routine. You can then add that to a calendar, schedule reminders, track your progress, do all the sort of things that a fitness app you would expect would do. So that's the exercise side. And then we have a social side where it's a built-in Facebook wall almost, where you can share your progress, share your support of others. And that peer-to-peer support is a really crucial part of retention within exercise. So that section, you can also join groups, and that's to give more targeted peer-to-peer support. So you might join a group of local people. It might be disability or impairment specific. It might be a veteran group. It might be a exercise goal group, but whatever relates to you more. Then the explore section, we map out every fitness facility in the user's country, and they're rated based on how accessible they are to the disabled community. So the exercise library and the explore section are both completely unique. No one's got that in the world. No one's got disabled presenters specific to each impairment presenting, and nobody's got a rating system for accessibility into venues or into gyms. And then our roadmap is to add in a nutrition section for bespoke content, cooking recipes, tips and tricks, that kind of things. Because often nutrition links to disability and usage. For example, if you have no legs, you burn calories at a different rate and in a different way to somebody that has got legs. We're going to add in a education section for personal trainers, clinical physicians, therapists, etc. We're going to add in e-commerce to be able to buy disability or accessible equipment for the user, and a couple of other really cool features. But that's kind of the roadmap.
Yeah, nice, very nice roadmap ahead. As you were saying, the features that we see in your app, it reminded me of a discussion that I had a few weeks ago with the founder of an app that works with gyms, with like gym owners. Because gym owners face the problem that when like somebody signs up, a high portion of people drop out after a few weeks or a few months. And they have some PhD psychologists working with them, and they figured out one of the key reasons is that you lose motivation, and like not everyone is like really committed that long, and it typically happens if you're alone. And the reason I'm sharing this, because you having this social component, I think it's an essential part of building a habit, which will help your app to have more active users in there, and people reinforcing each other in their exercises and initiatives.
Yeah, for sure. So I think one of the biggest things is accountability. So one of the issues that gyms face is that there's not very much accountability for each individual to keep going to the gym. So unless they pay for a personal trainer, in which case it's money out their pocket, there's no real drive for them to keep going. And that's quite hard for gyms as venues to solve. And that's often why people pay for a personal trainer. So my mum used to pay for a personal trainer at our local gym, not because she needed it, because she had me and she knew what she was doing, but just because it made her have to go to see him, essentially. So that's one of the big issues, and that's kind of where Accessercise is really good, because with the calendar function and the reminders and like you say, the peer-to-peer stuff, there's 5 or 6 different touch points along the user journey which give that accountability to the user. So they have to actively turn off a notification telling them to go to the gym. They have to actively decide not to do a workout. So and that's all very specifically designed to try and tackle that problem for sure.
Cool. I have a question about your platform. As I was thinking about it, you have on the one side like 2 types of users. Correct me if I'm wrong anywhere. You have the people who want to train, like the disabled community, and then you have content creators who create the various like trainings series and upload it in your app. And it reminded me a little bit of marketplaces where you have where you typically encounter in the early stages a chicken and the egg problem, right? Unless there's sufficient content, there's not going to be users. But if there are no users, then content creators will be hesitant to put a lot of effort in creating the content, because they're not going to see that much usage for a while. Yeah, I'm really curious how you go about that. First of all, do you encounter this problem? And if one form, yes, what do you do about that?
Yes, that isn't entirely true of our platform. So we don't allow users to add specific exercise content onto the platform. And the reason for that is that every single thing in our platform, every bit of content is based upon science, research, and validation. And users uploading their own content doesn't do that. That gets around that. So one of the bigger issues we see in terms of able-bodied fitness apps and the disabled community using those apps is that the exercises aren't right for them. And a couple of big brands have released some exercise content recently, which has been slated by the disabled community because they're trying to say, here's how you do a press up if you've got 5 different disabilities or impairments. And that's not true. It's dangerous for 4 out of those 5. And we're very focused on developing the content ourselves. And that creates a problem around, it costs money to develop the content and put that into the app, but we have to have some content in there and we have to develop that content regularly for our users. So there is that problem for sure. I think the chicken and the egg in terms of what you were discussing, we see in the social section a lot, because we need to build user base, and there can be times where the social section is a bit of a ghost town almost, in that no one really wants to be like the first people of the day or the week to sort of be posting into it. And because it's not a massive user base of millions yet, it's a limited number of people that are using and interacting on there. So that's kind of where we have that issue, and that's where the user's got a bit more control over the content they post. How we get around that is, I guess, just by growing our user base as quickly as possible, while working with our current users to make sure they stay engaged and interested in what they're doing. But yeah, I think it's a problem that everyone faces, and that's kind of the same within the investment round, like everyone wants to see all these big results and they want to see revenue driven and they want to see user growth and all that kind of stuff. And you go, well, that's great, but we can't do that as a bootstrap company until we get some external capital. So I think the whole startup journey is chicken and egg in everything you do, as far as I can tell.
That's a fair point. And it reminded me also of a story. I hope it's a real story, but I seem to remember that back in the 30s, when like shopping carts for supermarkets were invented. They were invented at one point. They weren't always there. People didn't use it. And the story that I remember is that supermarkets actually paid some people to get those carts out, because they wanted to overcome this problem. Like, who's going to be the first one with the cart? And if there are already a few people out there in there with carts, then it's not that awkward that I'm walking around with that too. And I want to use this story to reflect on what you said about keeping your existing user base engaged. And I think this is what I hear as a key success ingredient, is that whoever is on your platform, find a way to engage with them in the social aspect, because they're going to be like the first posting people there and talkers, and they take this anxiety from any new joiners that they're the first one out there, and oh my God, what are people going to say?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, your early adopters are key, because they like say they deliver the early content, but they also drive your brand. Those are the people that are going to go and shout about it to all of their friends and their family and their colleagues, etc. So yeah, the early adopters are hugely important for every company.
Okay, I have another question, which since you mentioned that you're developing the content, how do you develop like a sense of feeling or validation for which content will trigger usage or more usage from your product? How do you validate, so to say, maybe that's a different way of phrasing, what type of content to develop that has the biggest impact for your application?
Yeah, it's a good question. So I think there's kind of 2 answers to this. One is the app itself and the content within it, we've had scientifically validated by a third party. So Loughborough University have done a whole scientific study on it, completely independent of us. And they used the behavioral change wheel to see if the app develops or delivers enough content and features to permanently and positively change behaviors in the disabled community. And they categorically have validated that as it does exceptionally well. So we're in a nice position where we can say we're scientifically proven and validated to help and support. We can prove that it's published in medical journals, etc. So that kind of side of it's very easy for us. In terms of the specific content side, I mean, we use all of that, the obvious analytic tools to track sort of what users are doing what and where the time's spent. And so a good example is we were a bit surprised that the explore section got so much traffic and time spent on it over the first kind of 6 months. And that's now allowed us to pivot our roadmap and focus on developing the explore section a bit quicker than we were going to, because if that's what users are wanting, then that's what we'll develop. So that kind of thing makes it easy for us to target and change roadmap and be quite agile in that regard. The actual specific exercise content, this is where we get a real good advantage as a early mover, in that because there is nothing else out there in the market, anything we put onto the platform is really well received, amazing, it's new, it's great. So we're kind of in this honeymoon period, I'd say, of we can put content in at whatever speed we need to and in whatever format we need to, and it's great and it's loved. So I'm not expecting that to last forever for sure, but we're kind of in a beautiful sweet spot. Our only thing as a company and organization is to make sure we stay true to whatever goes into the app is scientifically driven and is as accessible as possible. So as long as we can tick those two boxes, it's great.
You're good. Okay, Sam, I have a last question for you. In the very beginning, you talked, and I also mentioned your professional sporting background. And I wanted to ask if, like, you're a founder now, you were a sportsman for a long time. Do you have, like, does this spirit of sportsmanship give any kind of unfair advantage in your thinking and in your opinion for a founder later on?
It definitely gives an advantage for sure. Whether that's unfair is a philosophical debate, I think, on the basis that you work so hard as an athlete to get to where you are. So you feel like I've done my time, but in a different setting. But no, yeah, it's definitely an advantage, I think, coming from an elite sporting background, and that's for a number of reasons. And I actually wrote a recent article on this, and the biggest factors that I think resonate with me are things around resilience, teamwork, the leadership, the ability to bounce back, some of the risk-taking side of it, some of the management side of it. And so, during our sporting career, it's not successful in so many ways. And everyone on TV sees people winning gold medals and being amazing. And that's what they don't see is that to win that one gold medal, you've probably lost 300 events or something, or races in the build up to that. And so the ability to take loss and failure, be okay with that, to learn from it, and then come back from it stronger is one of, I think, the biggest factors in the startup world, because you get so many rejections, closed doors, things that don't work. You can't spend money where you need to spend money early on. And it's just all of this frustration and stuff, and being able to just say, so what, now what, and just move on from that each time, I think is really important. So that's kind of one aspect of it. I think the teamwork side of it is really important. So I competed in a 2-person team, but our wider support network included 2 physios, 3 lifting coaches, 2 sport coaches, probably 3 or 4 consultants, psychologists, a therapist. We have this massively wide team. We have a chef, a nutritionist, a logistics team to do all the equipment moving, a technical team to do all your development work. So you have this support network and this team of probably 50 people or something trying to help you be a better athlete. And how you work with, integrate them into your program and trust them as individuals and trust them as experts is really important. And I think that translates very quickly into a boardroom where, I'm not very good at social media, so I don't pretend to be. If somebody in the company is better at social media, they can go and do that. I don't need to know what they're doing because I don't understand it. That's fine. Go and do your thing. I'm very good at strategizing. I'm very good at planning. I'm very good at, so all those sorts of things I have to do to be a CEO. I'm not very good at some of the other stuff, but I don't want to micromanage that. So I think that comes from sport a lot for sure. I think the whole notion of having this big goal and breaking it down into all the little steps to get there is super important. It's all well and good having an idea and launching a company, but how you take that from point A to point B is super important. Yeah, and so I think that all of that's really important. I think like the dedication side, the self accountability, I guess, sort of similar to that gym user analogy earlier, is really important. You have to be able to hold yourself accountable every single day of your life. You know, what have I done today to make the company better? And that's the same as in sport. You know, every time you go training, you have to get better. That's your job, is to get better each day. It's the same when you're running a company. Your company should get better every day. So yeah, I think it's a massive advantage. I think we learn a lot. I think, you know, even just the handling stress and the focus side of it, you know, there's nothing I've come across in business has been more stressful than the final race in the World Championships. You know, like nothing has been more stressful than that. So it's kind of nice almost, because it's not stressful, but it's, you know, compared to what has happened or has been done,
it does give you a perspective. Like I didn't compete at that level, but what you describe, I can relate to that, like the experience of being a father. Like sometimes, like your kid being sick, for instance, and you know, like your infant being in hospital. It's just so much stress, and then you compare it to an investor meeting. Like an investor cannot give you, they just can't be as stressful, and then having this sort of reference point to contrast against it, it helps to keep calm. And I can fully relate to what you described there. Amazing, Sam. I'm so grateful that you joined my show. There's so much I learned today, and I'm sure my audience as well. And I wish you the best of luck for your fundraising and to develop your application. There's such a dire need for that, so I'm crossing my fingers that you guys go grow like crazy, and I can welcome you back in the show in a few months' time, and hear how it all went through the roof.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, really enjoyed it.